Today's top picks from Reuters Breakingviews: the Bank of England avoids the elephant in the room, and why RBS's sale of its US arm looks like the least bad option. With me now to discuss these stories is Reuters Breakingviews assistant editor Chris Hughes. Chris, let's start with the Bank of England. One would argue it's not been very good at forecasting. It didn't spot the financial crisis. It certainly didn't spot the LIBOR scandal. So what is the problem?
Well, actually, we still don't quite know. There have been these three probes into the sort of the actual nitty-gritty, the operations of the Bank of England during the crisis, but they don't really address the key question. I mean, when you have an organisation where you think is operating a bit below par, and as you say, they were a bit slow to get into the financial crisis. They didn't really warn about the credit bubble quite as loudly as you ought to be if you really think crisis is coming during the noughties. And when you have an organisation where you're kind of raising questions about its performance, the first thing you ask is the culture right? The culture comes from the top. Is there something wrong with the way the hierarchy is structured, with the way that the top management are challenged by those below? And actually, these probes, they don't address that. They ought to have tackled that head on. Now, one of them, which focuses on the liquidity operations of the bank by Bill Winters, former JP Morgan executive, does hint at some of these issues, rather tactfully raises some questions about whether the middle management, if you like, at the bank, when they do raise questions about what's going on, whether they really do it in a kind of maybe filtered way to sort of to not ruffle too many feathers. But we don't really have a full-blown kind of cultural review. And as you know, we've got the bank getting new leadership soon. Mervyn King is going to step down.
So maybe the new governors should look at the culture.
Yeah, I think that what we're saying today is that that new governor, whoever it may be, it's still up for grabs. One of the first things they should do is have a sort of proper cultural audit and just ask whether there is sufficient challenge within the bank as it takes on these new powers.
And with the new powers as well, one would say, can it actually do it? Because it comes on top of an already big remit.
It's got to, as you say, the remit is going to expand, and that is why you need even more robust governance. So look, there are big companies in the world with thousands of people. This is not, in terms of personnel, a huge organisation. So it's got big powers. It just probably needs tighter governance.
Let's quickly move on to RBS, your other story. Bank under pressure to sell Citizens, its US business. Would this make sense? I mean, many would argue it would, because RBS's home market, it doesn't quite fit in.
Exactly. Now, there is this dilemma at the moment where RBS's strategy is still pretty fluid. Obviously, it's come out of the really acute phase of the crisis. It's been recapitalised by the government. It's been trimming away at its investment bank, but there's still a sense in which it could do more. And there are some investors, and there are particularly regulators who will be quite keen to see it sell its US operations Citizens. If you convert that into a cash sale, you essentially create capital for the bank, and so you'd accelerate the recapitalisation process. Now, the problem is there's probably actually quite a large body of other investors, who include the government. It's got this massive stake. You think, well, hang on, if we get rid of Citizens, we're also going to lose the earnings that come from Citizens, and that's going to undermine the investment case if we try to sell the government stake onto the market. So there is this dilemma. Now, in our view, it's probably better to err on the side of capital strength, and that will probably actually help the investment case too. So while you think you're weakening the investment case by shedding this US earnings stream, if you've got fortress balance sheet capital, you're going to keep the regulators happy, and you're probably going to keep the investors happy too. And the strategy shouldn't really be driven by sort of UK government imperatives to sell down its stake. The strategy needs to be right for RBS, and that probably means more capital.
And it'll put RBS in a good position in these tough times as well.
Well, as you say, times are still tough. It's still too soon to call the end of the Eurozone crisis. I mean, Greece is still creating a lot of worry. So it's just, we're still in that phase where you kind of can't have too much capital.
Right, we have to leave it there. My thanks to Chris Hughes from Breakingviews. For more agenda-setting financial insight, watch our US Breakingviews show every day at 12:30 Eastern, 16:30 GMT. I'm Angeline Ong, and this is Reuters. We do the sale.